Hello, everyone, and welcome into another episode of the Big Blue News Podcast. I'm joined again by Noah Fleming, and then also joined by Lane Gutsy. How do you say your last name, man?
It's pronounced Gutcha, Lane Gutcha.
All right, nice to have you all on the podcast. If y'all want to, watch their episodes, they are the amateur statistics scholars. But if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, Lane, because Nolan was on the show last time. If you want to as well, Lane, you can real quick.
Okay, so my name is Lane Gutcha. I'm going to be a senior in high school, and I'm a huge fan of sports, particularly the NFL and college sports. If I had to choose a college sports team, I'd choose Western Kentucky, and I'm a big fan of Group of Five sports.
And nice, I went to Western, but let's get into the podcast now. The first thing we're going to talk about, though, is Somto Cyril. He committed to Kentucky right
Committed.
before we got onto this podcast. It's been confirmed by Jack Pilgrim, but he is staying in the class of 2024. I think that's a big get. I wish he was reclassified, though, to the 2023.
I'll take this one, I guess, Lane. But
Oh,
yeah,
I saw about this.
yeah. But it would be nice if he would reclass because if he did, it fills a hole. And now all of a sudden, I think we all assumed that he was going to reclass, and I think Cal probably did as well. And I don't think he really prepared for him to be in the class of 2024. It's great that we're going to get him and that he's going to be in the class of 2024. But now all of a sudden, you really, if Bradshaw's going to play the four when he comes back, or if he comes back, you got a hole there. Like you really don't have a five to back up Ugo. So like Mitchell maybe could play the five, but
Yeah,
I don't understand why you play Mitchell at the five and Bradshaw at the four when he's 7 feet tall. But
yeah, I know.
that's the
Mhm.
only thing I could think of really. And I know you were saying, I mean, there might be other options, but right now, it does feel a little bit like the roster might be incomplete because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, with the addition of Tre Mitchell, also from West Virginia, that gives you more length at your wing to where you can put guys like Bradshaw at your five and still have a good length at the three. And you also have, you have a decently complete roster with Onsenio also playing the five. And I feel like they can kind of bounce back off each other, be a good low post duo.
Yeah, and with Somto Cyril, a little bit more about him, according to 24/7 Sports, he's a four-star. He's ranked the 44th best player in the nation, fifth best center. So obviously, it's a big get for UK. Obviously, it would have been nice if he reclassified, but from what Jack Pilgrim was previously saying in his podcast episodes, it was about him actually graduating. He didn't have enough credits to graduate, even though he walked this past year across the stage, which is, crazy to
That
think about.
Yeah, that is insane. Whoever let him walk on stage probably got fired.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now Kentucky is definitely having to look for another option. Obviously, there's been some reports about Nafale Dante from Oregon. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed. It's just been, rumors right now, and it would be interesting to get him for sure. I mean, UK might end up with the Oregon assistant coach on the staff, but that's obviously also not confirmed. Jack Pilgrim wrote an article yesterday about that, basically confirming it, but nothing from UK so far.
Yeah, I think Chuck Martin would be a fantastic addition to the coaching staff. As far as Nafali Dante goes, I'll believe it when I see it because I highly doubt that he would come to Kentucky to be a backup. He was a starter obviously last year and had a pretty solid year, so I don't think he would come to back up Ugo. So take I obviously I don't have any inside sources or anything, but on that, but like I would believe it when I saw it. If it does happen, it would be quite exciting, and then I would be very, very thrilled with it. But yeah,
Yeah, and like I said, I think it could potentially happen. Like I said, with Chuck Martin, officially once he becomes on the staff. Like I said, just waiting for UK to, officially report that. But if he does
Mhm.
come, Chuck Martin, then yeah, you could see the Oregon center obviously potentially transferring to UK, and he could potentially be, the starting center, and then Uganda comes off the bench.
I'll let you take this lane.
Yeah, this also comes back and stems back to the problem that Calipari knew he was going to have to face in losing Oscar Tshiebwe. I mean, how do you replace a guy like that who's going to be a tenacious rebounder down low? I mean, we've seen flashes from Onsenio, of course, in some of like the garbage time is what people call it, whenever he does actually get in a game and start playing. But other than that, we haven't really seen anything else, so we don't know what to expect at the five. Of course, I mean, Bradshaw, we've seen him play in the in just like all American games and everything, and we've seen how good he can be and how good of a rebounder he is because his length is pretty impressive, and for him to be able to move like that. So it's just going to be interesting on how Kentucky just figures out how to find a good second down there for center or somebody to potentially compete for starting job.
And I will add real quick, it's quite obvious that this is what happens whenever you put all your eggs in one basket, like they did with Hunter Dickinson at first. I mean, it would have been great to have Hunter Dickinson here, but you can tell that that's who the staff wanted to be their starting five.
Yeah.
Ugo was never intended, I think, to be the starting five. And then when that didn't work, they tried to get Tshiebwe back, and it didn't work. And now all of a sudden, you kind of have this Frankenstein's monster at the five, and like you're just kind of throwing people and seeing, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm not downplaying Ugo at all. We're saying he can't be the starting center and everything. I've seen recent like way too early 2024 mock drafts where they have him going mid-second round to early second round.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to get to know a lot about a lot of these guys, hopefully within the next few weeks, of course, next few months before the season starts. But hopefully by then, by November, a solid rotation can be built.
Yeah, and who knows when Aaron Bradshaw will officially be back. Obviously, he won't be playing during the game with the Global Jam, so obviously he'll be out, but it'll be interesting to see when he comes back because right now I could potentially see the starting lineup this upcoming year without Bradshaw to start out would probably be Ugana at the 5, probably you would do that, Tre Mitchell at the 4, 3, Edwards, 2. I would say start out with Reeves at the very beginning of the year and then let Dillingham, eventually become the starter at the 2 and then the 1, obviously, DJ Wagner.
I'd say that'd be my prediction as to who starts that Kansas game at the beginning of the year. But I'm going to assume that's the first game of the year since it tends to be. But I think if you ask most of our fan base right now, though, I think they're going to tell you that Mitchell's going to be the starter all year long and that Bradshaw's never going to play. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready to go out there and say anything about that because I don't, nobody really knows anything. Just again, I'll believe it when I see it, and I think that's the way a lot of people are.
Yeah, and a little bit more about potentially the Oregon transfer if he does transfer at all. Nafale Dante. I mean, this past year, his senior year, he averaged 13.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks, which is pretty impressive numbers, honestly, for a big man.
Yeah, those numbers scream starter. They definitely not looking to settle in a rotational spot.
Yeah. I would always be fine with, him starting at the center position. Like I said, if he does hit the transfer portal, obviously nothing confirmed, just rumors, everywhere.
Wouldn't bother me.
It wouldn't bother me. I mean, I don't know if Ugana would transfer or not if he came off the bench, though.
Yeah, because then you start to think about when he did enter the transfer portal. People have already forgotten that he was in the portal
For 2 weeks.
early this offseason for a couple weeks. And I do wonder if he was promised something or not, because I know Cal doesn't promise anything, but he's kind of gotten to the point this offseason where you might need to start promising a little bit.
Yeah.
Lane, I don't know what you think about that, if you want to bounce off of me.
Oh, no, you explained it perfectly fine. I mean, nothing's a given in college basketball. You're always going to have to work for it. But I mean, a lot of these guys who are former 4-star, 5-star recruits come in with that mentality like, oh, yeah, I'm going to play my freshman, sophomore season and everything. And they're not used to, having that new wave of players coming in on top of them that potentially fit a scheme that's ever changing in somebody's system. And of course, with Calipari, he's always played just a routine usually routine man-to-man defense. But I mean,
Yeah.
last year it was kind of getting bounced around. Of course, in the tournament against Kansas State, they couldn't keep up with Marquise Noel.
Yeah.
And once you get to a point where it's like that, you start looking to more of a zone defense with bigger length uh, on the bottom. And I mean, on Yenso, he's got length, but
Mhm.
if you get a guy like Dante, that just opens up a lot broader. And of course, if he's able to average, I think you said 13 and a half points a game and be that well of a scorer on offense, that's pretty good.
Even if that too, I will add about defense. Oscar Sheepway, he's probably one of the greatest players to ever play at Kentucky. Do not get me wrong when it comes to awards and stuff. He got burnt on defense
He
at
did.
both years he was here. That
Yeah.
pick and roll, he got torched crazy. I
Mhm.
love Oscar Sheepway, but it's just the truth. Anybody who has eyes and knows anything about basketball saw that.
Yeah.
I think honestly that'll be less of an issue this year down low. Not necessarily maybe for Ugo, but even if you do have like a Tre Mitchell or a Aaron Bradshaw down there, if you have to, I think they're better defenders than Oscar was.
Mhm.
And even if you look at this roster in general, there's a lot more length on it
Mhm.
than there has been in recent years. Like DJ Wagner, he's like 6'4", isn't he? 6'3" and a half, 6'4", something like
I think
that.
6'3", yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Either way,
correct.
that's I mean, still pretty good height for a point guard. And it's just a lot, like I said, a lot more height on this team than there has been in recent years.
Mhm. Yeah, and I just looked it up. DJ Wagner is 6'3". A lot of people have been talking about what the defense will look like this upcoming year because so many people are afraid, the fans are, that this team won't be great defensively, but they'll be great offensively, and they'll put up, 100 points, but they also might allow the other teams to score 90.
That's not. I'd say that is a fair concern, honestly, because last year's team defensively was abysmal, obviously,
Yeah.
and again, I think as a fan base, we're in a we'll believe it when we see it sort of era at the moment because it's just things have not really gone our way lately, like in the tournament, just in a lot of things. It doesn't just revolve around Aaron Bradshaw, which we'll believe it when we see it.
Yeah, especially since COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a bigger thing with the length is and everything, of course, with Tre Mitchell coming in, you still have Edwards, who's I believe 6'6", 6'7" in that range.
Yeah,
And
he's
so
6'7".
yeah, and so having him playing a forward spot or possibly even a guard spot with how good of a scorer he is, how
Mhm.
elusive he is, that allows guys like Reeves to potentially move to the one. Because I mean, Reeves is a pretty good ball handler.
Yeah,
And that
we saw that in Arkansas.
oh yeah, and that allows a ton of like mismatch of where you can put guys. So that's you could potentially have like 2, 6, 7 guys playing like guard and forward at some point.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking a little bit earlier, we were talking about players maybe finally coming here. I mean, the La Familia Club might be helping out as well with getting former Kentucky basketball players, to help basically bring in NIL collective. Obviously, John Calipari isn't calling it that, but maybe that helped with, with Antonio Reeves coming back this upcoming year, and also, our latest get from West Virginia.
Yeah, and I think I know a lot of people are still criticizing Cal about it. I think he actually deserves to be applauded for doing that because it's something that's been overdue. I think for a little bit in the basketball program, but the fact that he did it, he realized that there was an issue, and he has taken initiative to try to find a solution. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, and I think that has had an impact in getting players here over the last few weeks.
Um, and then let's talk a little bit more about Tre Mitchell before we probably end this podcast. I just want to talk about him since I haven't had a podcast since, he committed. This past year, he had 12 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. So obviously not Oscar numbers with rebounds, but it'll be nice to, have another big man on that floor.
Yeah, well, West Virginia is becoming our hotspot for talent. West Virginia and overtime elite, apparently. So,
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the addition of Tre Mitchell. I think he's going to be a solid player here. If he starts or not, I mean, obviously that's a different story. Aaron Bradshaw again for like the 100th time in this episode, but I think he'll whatever role he has to play. I think he'll fit it perfectly because I think he is being brought in to be more of a Chris Livingston type. I think to defend. He just is a better scorer than Livingston. Livingston had his struggles there last year on offense, but I think he'll fit the mold for exactly what Calipari wants him to do. Lane, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the podcast, Mitchell is definitely being brought in as more of a defender at is he 6'8" or 9?
I
6'9".
think he's 6'9", yeah.
6'9", yeah. So he could potentially, with how good of a scorer he is, he can be potentially put at a 3 or a 4 spot. It just depends on what defense is being played. Of course, if you go with the 2-3 zone, you might want to have him out there nearly almost at all times to be good in the corners, good length to get in the shooter's face.
Mhm.
And also going along with that, that does also make room for you have to figure out where will Edwards play if Mitchell's out there on the floor. Will Edwards be playing the 3 spot or the 2 spot?
I think I agree with that actually. I also think Tre Mitchell will probably end up being the sixth man on this team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because once Aaron Bradshaw officially comes back, I think he'll be the sixth man. Of course, not Aaron Bradshaw, but like you said, Tre Mitchell. I think he'll probably be the sixth man coming off the bench.
Yeah, I hate to do this, guys, but I got to wrap this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave, and I'll let you guys bond, I guess. So I appreciate you having me, Chris.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on to the podcast. Do you have
All
anything
right,
else you would like to add, Nolan?
that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to the basketball season, and can't wait to get this thing started.
Mhm.
So follow me on Twitter if you want to, I guess, at Fleming_Nolan, whatever, Nolan
Mhm.
Fleming. All right. Thanks for having me. See you.
All right, you're
See ya.
welcome, Nolan. I appreciate you coming on. Well, I'll probably also end with the podcast as well. It's about 20 minutes long, so I appreciate you also coming on, Lane, and I wish you the best of luck with your future.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, man. Kind
Yeah.
of disappointed we didn't get to talk any football. Of course, it's definitely Larry being at the Manning Passing Academy. We got two get it on my mouth. Two Kentucky guys there with Austin Reed from Western Kentucky there helping with this. So it's pretty special to see two quarterbacks from Kentucky at such an event like this.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting for sure. Also, I know Kentucky football just landed a commit earlier today, so obviously UK football is on the rise, and we can talk about that on a different episode for sure. But I appreciate you coming on as well. Do you have anything else you would like to add? Your social media or anything?
No, nothing else I'd like to add. Just thank you for being on here. If you haven't known anything, me and Nolan, we are on a podcast called the Amateur Statistics Scholars. You can find us on Instagram at just Amateur Statistics Scholars, all one big word. And we'd really appreciate it if you listen to us. We're available on Spotify, iHeart, really anywhere where you can get your podcast. So we're pretty easy to get in contact with, and we're always open to DMs if you guys have any suggestions you want us to talk about too. We're more than happy to cover an episode on that. So thank you, Chris, for having me on here. It's been nice to talk sports.
You're welcome, and like I said, go check out their podcast as well. And I'm excited to see what UK can do this upcoming year in both football and basketball, of course, in all sports. But obviously, big get for Kentucky with Somto Cyril, and hopefully, maybe UK can end up with another big man on the roster.
Yep.
All right. Thank you again. And if y'all are watching this podcast as well, follow me on social media. It's C Beatsmore Sports on Twitter, and then Chris Beatsmore _sports on Instagram. And thank you all for watching.